Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
Once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who kept us going for over 400 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week is Ryoku.
Thank you, Ryoku.
We slight doldrum. I know that there's like some announcements coming and stuff like that. Really, the only good news.
It's the calm before the storm here, but I want to, it's always a good time to reflect and I want to crush everyone's dreams before we get to that, the big Christmas in June, because not only is it just the Summer Games Fest, but there's literally like 10. I mean that actually, like about 10 other plus directs happening that week, from tiny to big people,
Yeah, you got your Sonys and
all, like, you got everything from like the cozy gaming direct all the way up to Microsoft and Nintendo. So
who's the Cozy Gaming Direct?
that's what it's called.
Oh, it's legit called the Cozy Gaming Direct.
Yeah.
Fuck. Cottage Core and Cozy Gaming.
Right, like it's it's for indies pretty much mostly, but like, yeah, it covers all those style of games. They've banded together. They got their own little direct, and it happens at the same time as everything else.
That's cute as hell.
I mean, no, is sort of a shout out. I don't know where they'll show up, but in one of these PC focused, indie focused directs, I'm hoping to see more Europa. And I'm really actually excited to hopefully see more of a game called Mariachi Legends, which I don't think you've seen. Which I might blow your mind early here, because if you just watch a teaser, so it's Symphony of the Night with like a detective turned into like an undead mariachi guy with a katana and a gun, and it looks like Symphony of the Night.
I mean,
and it's all based on folklore and stuff from that area of the world.
Obviously,
it's being made in the town that created mariachi music.
Why a katana?
Because they're weebs. Like they even got like a very like super anime perfect looking animated intro for it and everything.
I'm gonna have to look this up. What was it called?
Mariachi Legends.
Yeah, I'm writing this down because I'm looking it up right away.
And it looks really good. Like the sprite work looks really good on this game.
No, I mean, I'm sold already. I've done been sold.
Like they were super inspired by Guacamelee, but they were kind of annoyed that that it came from Canada, and they're like, we need to be making our own Symphony of the Night. So,
I thought you were gonna say that it's by the same guys.
No, but they're very much inspired, but also sort of like competitively driven to like, we need to, what, Mexico needs to make their own castle, Metroidvania.
I'm down with that. Yeah, no, I'm totally down with that. I think that's real legit. Actually, every country should do a Metroidvania that encapsulates their favorite things from their culture.
Bro, yeah, honestly, that would be super cool.
That would be very cool, like a compendium of different cultures, Metroidvanias.
Yes,
I would be very into that. That would be super cool. But when I say every culture or every country, I mean it. There's got to be one for like Chad. It's like you don't even expect this country.
Why not, man?
Hell yeah. But no, we're gonna talk about some things you're definitely not going to see this summer.
Yeah, so this is the in memoriam of Dead Franchise. We're going to rank the Dead franchises. We're gonna rank them and tell you how likely they are to come back.
So we'll name a Dead franchise and we'll discuss maybe things we like about it and why it'll never come back and shatter your dreams, and maybe give it a rank of like 1 to 10. So I guess this is where I'm confused. Are we only doing 10 and we're going to give it the rank of how How unlikely? Or are we
No,
just
no,
gonna
no.
like throw
We're just gonna
in
we're
one
gonna
thing
we're just
making
gonna
them?
throw around names of dead IPs, and then
Hell
we'll
yeah.
give it a
Okay.
rank.
Okay.
10 is like, 1 is mostly dead, which means it's still alive, possibly. 10 all
Yeah.
dead.
It's
So
dead.
all dead. Ted is Ted 10 is completely dead, and then 1 is like, hey, this is gonna come back somehow, somewhere, someday. 10 is like, it's dead. It's
Okay.
not coming back.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I mean, this got inspired by I forget who it was, but someone was on Twitter today was showing off their documents and stuff of was it a Combi Lawrence? Anyway, Sega Dreamcast info, um, the website Sega Dreamcast info games preservation. They were doing a deep dive into unreleased artwork and storyboards and scripts and everything for Fear Effect Inferno. I remember this game. I remember this game being talked about at like some early ass E3 I went to,
Because
which
Fear
was
Effect has been done since like the year 2000.
yeah, like there was Fear Effect 1, there's Fear Effect 2, and on all both on PlayStation 1, and there was gonna be a PS2 game, and it didn't happen. There was like a remaster of the first one not too long ago, but there was gonna be a new game. It was announced in 2017, and then it got canceled. Um that back when Square still owned the IP, because I think when Square sold off IDOS to Embracer Group, I'm pretty sure the IP went with it, and Embracer has been nothing but like nursing the wound of its insanely stupid
Buying
yeah,
spree.
yeah, well, the gambit they had,
Oh,
was it last year, where they were like, they bought up all these IPs, they bought up all these studios, they bought the rights to Lord of the Rings, they bought all this stuff, all on the hope that a major deal with Saudi Arabia was going to go through, multi-billion-dollar deal that they pulled out last second.
well, I mean, anyone who's played the pullout game knows you just creep closer and closer to the last second until it fucks you.
And yeah, like the whoever all that beautiful imagery aside, this man literally put the wagon before the horse. He counted his chickens before they hatched. He literally did the most stupid thing you can possibly do, which was go accrue a shit ton of debt before actually having the money in your account.
Genius CEO. Um,
Jeez.
well, Fear Effect is dead. We can
I
say
would
that's a 10.
say I'm gonna
Think
say
so.
I'm gonna say 8. The only reason I'm saying an 8 is, one, there was a remaster not too long ago, and 7 years ago they tried to get a new game off the ground, which means that someone out there is still trying to make this a thing. Like there
Someone who
there
believes, who
there
loves.
was someone out there not that long ago, but it's mostly dead. Don't get me wrong. Like that's why I'm saying like it's 8. It's pretty close to dead, but there was a remaster, I believe. I think.
Well, I'll start with a game that I wish, that I hoped, that I always wanted to come back. Uh, but I feel like I just need to dash everybody's hopes immediately right off the front is Dino Crisis. Dino Crisis is a game everybody's been talking about for a long time. Come back, and it's just I don't think it's gonna happen.
You really don't. It
No.
feels weird to live in an era where the RE engine is now like taking off, and those RE games are doing very, very well. They just got an update today.
Yeah, look, hey, if I'm wrong, sick as hell. I'm a winner anyway. All I'm saying is I'm tired of getting my hopes up. This shit's dead. It's dead. Doesn't matter how much we yell about it.
Well,
So
how would you rank this one?
well, see, I would normally I'd hedge it. I'd be like, it's a 7. Like RE engine is there. People have a hankering for these like rebirths of these older
Mhm.
games. But the thing is like Dino Crisis, people have a weird memory of it. I liked the game, but also I still clearly remember the time it came out where everyone called it an RE knockoff and it got mostly ridiculed, even though it was good. Like
Mhm.
it mostly got made fun of. So people have this weird nostalgia where like Dino Crisis is such an obvious thing to bring back. But is it? Is it obvious to
Well,
because
here's
Resident Evil absolutely remaster the shit out, remake the shit out of that.
yeah.
That's a clear winner. Dino Crisis is not a clear winner. So I'm gonna say that it's like an 8.
I think it's a little okay. I think it's a little more like a 7 because there were rumors that Capcom Vancouver were possibly like pitching it to get made,
But that rumor
and
pops
then
up every like 5
well,
years.
the company got shut down. The idea was that like Capcom said no,
Your
so
idea is so bad we're closing.
it's more the thing that's like someone tried, the company said no, the studio eventually went bye bye, and the other thing that I think really hurts Dino Crisis chances right now is just Capcom's gotten very much I don't want to work with anyone else. They've gotten very insular. Because
Yeah.
even though RE3 remake actually sold well, people did not like it. It was not a well received game.
It was kind of
Mm,
weird that people didn't like
yeah.
it though a little bit. Some of the hate that game got was a little overblown in my opinion. I
Yeah,
don't think it was perfect by any means, but
right. Yeah. I think you and I are kind of on the same boat there where like I don't think 3 was that great to begin with. First of all, so that's number 1 where I'm coming from. I understand that, a lot of areas were really cut from remake. And I understand that Nemesis being more or less a theme park attraction where he's just sort of like a thing that pops up,
right.
to is not nearly as fun as say Mr. X or whatever. And I understand that. I do think the game was actually still kind of fun, though. Granted, as long as you didn't play it on the highest difficulties where the last boss is actually honestly broken.
It's also another case of where people misremember how popular it was when it first came out. Like it's like I knew hardcore. Well, I mean, my brother is like a hardcore Resident Evil fanatic, and he loves that game. I think it's his favorite Resident Evil.
3?
Like, yeah. But the casual people that I knew that played
Too
Resident Evil
obscure
3 is
really does something for him, doesn't it?
you know what though? I can't disagree. Uh Tube top and a mini skirt was like 90s just um but my point is like everybody that you need to buy a Resident Evil for it to be a success was kind of meh on Resident Evil 3. And sure, several of the hardcore Resident Evil fans that I knew loved 3, the original 3. But also it was clearly an expansion, like it clearly
Oh, yeah.
wasn't a full game. And so now the remake, one of the complaints that I had always heard was like people would be like, well, it's really short. It's like, well, the original's really short. Like,
Yeah, apparently Mikami's not really a big fan of the game. And, even though he was the creator, producer of the franchise at the time, and he was just like, I hated the fact that we had to call this 3. It's a spinoff. It should have always been a spinoff. Um,
Mm, well, also, I think he kind of had lost a lot of love for the whole series, like the direction the series was going, and
yeah.
clearly he wanted to just like kick it into 11 or kick it into high gear for 4. He like
Yeah.
he clearly was disillusioned with the
Oh,
direction of the
he
series.
he was bored, I think,
Yeah,
by 3 Code Veronica, which is why Devil May Cry became Devil May Cry, why RE4 still became RE4.
yeah, oh yeah.
Um,
Uh,
it's interesting though, if you ever have time to watch like I forget who it was, but there's a more recent, really long form interview with him on YouTube, and he talks about how like RE1 is like nothing but compromise. The game as it was nothing what he wanted to make. He wanted to make a first person game in a haunted house, and
right.
it was never supposed to be zombies. It was never supposed to be static camera angles. It was never supposed to be tank controls. It was never supposed to have, you know, gimped aiming. It was never supposed to have any of those things. But like, it was just compromise after compromise, and all of a sudden, it births their most successful franchise.
So many things like in any art form or entertainment, like so many of the favorite things for people are born of like compromise and like things you have to fill in the blanks for. Like people have such nostalgia for fixed camera angles in the original combat, but I think if it was done today, it would be crap. Mostly because at that time it was crap. Um, but you get this like nostalgia for filling in the blanks of the combat there where it's like you overlook
Yeah.
the rough nature of aiming and so and I know there's a lot of purists that will be so mad that they'll be like
Mhm.
how dare you hate on the traditional fixed camera, but also fixed camera will suck.
It's funny
Like,
just because like he said 7 when he saw 7, he's like, this is way closer to my original idea for our Resident Evil. Like 7,
Yeah, I
I
remember
would
that.
say if we knew what he thought about 8, he probably would have said 8, especially too. Like 8, and especially in the dollhouse, it's like that's what he wanted Resident Evil to be.
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely think that's knowing all the things he did after the fact, like even his influence on like Ghostwire Tokyo before. I'm blanking on the director that took that over.
Oh,
She's great, but I can't remember.
yeah, I'm gonna mispronounce her name. Um,
But you know who I'm talking about.
yeah,
Everyone listening knows who I'm talking about.
yeah,
She's
it's
like,
spooky. God, I'm gonna totally mispronounce her name, so I almost don't want to say it.
yeah, don't
I
worry
know,
about
I know it begins with an I.
it. So like, yeah, that makes clear sense. So is Dino Crisis going to come back?
I say it's weird to me because I feel like it should. Like, why? I mean, they're still making Jurassic Park movies.
I think
Like,
over half of the
planning
things
for a 7th one already.
over half of the things that I thought about as dead, I think should come back. You know, some of them I'm like, oh hell yeah, if this came back now, it would like it'd kill it.
I'm
Uh,
gonna I'm gonna say 7.
you gonna say 7?
I
Okay.
still think it's pretty dead. I think the outlook's pretty grim, but it's like if they're gonna make dumb crap like Exoprimal or whatever, like
Yeah, if you would have asked me before Exoprimal, I would have said like 5.
yeah.
50-50 shot that it comes back. Now though, 8. Like, I don't think I have any desire. All right, hit me. Do you got one that's going to be heartbreaking?
I mean, I got many heartbreakers out there. As far as like dead franchises, let's get a little jovial here. Gex,
You know what? I sort of forgot Gex exists.
Gex is a meme. Gex is dead. Gex is not coming back. Gex is a 10, and Gex should stay dead because Gex was never that good. I remember I was so hyped for Gex Enter the Gecko at the time because I was looking for that next Mario 64 to fill in, fill in the hole that game left in my heart or whatever. But like Gex was not it.
Wasn't it? It was. I think it was our friend Rodney that used to make jokes about the Geico gecko. He used to call it Gex.
Yeah.
Like he every time it came on TV, he'd be like, "Oh look, it's Gex." Like
Yeah.
that's the only thing
Gex,
I
Enter the
remember.
Gecko. And then there was like remember the third game he had like some human girlfriend. It was like, but it was like it wasn't even like, oh, she looks human. No, like it was literally just video of a human model like on a green screen. Do you remember this? You
No,
don't remember this.
genuinely Gex is a black hole for me. Like I can picture the like
Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko, and it was like some it was like a Playboy Playmate or something, and they just put her in front of a green screen talking to Gex, like in the
what
game. Like, yes, this was a thing. Gex is dead for this reason.
what asshole was like Gex deep cover? Like who proposed that? Who came up with that? Like I admire them. And
The
you know
late 90s, man.
how many times I and granted I haven't done marketing in a long time, but like how many times I made pitches for things that were so clearly to me a good idea to where I got like blank stares and no enthusiasm, but some dickhead was just like, all right, we're gonna make a game called Gex, the undercover gecko, deep cover
Gex
gecko.
3 Deep Cover Gecko.
And
Yeah, I just looked
somebody had to be like, yes, yes, do it.
I'm reading Playboy model Marlise Andrada plays Gex's kidnapped companion, Agent Extra. The, the only live action character who is featured in brief full motion video sequences on the PlayStation version. This is no like
My God. Why, why why does it's sort of like the guy game. It's one of those games where you're just like, why? Who is this for?
holy fuck. The director of this game was Glenn Schofield, the fucking creator of Dead Space. Holy fuck! Oh man, that man fell into a black hole after Callisto Protocol died. But
Still, that's who can't. Well, no wonder he got Dead Space. Like that's something that you remember at the time when Dead Space was first getting announced, and some people were kind of like, "It's a ripoff. It's it's just Resident Evil in space." And like, do you remember that? Like that? No, I'm talking about like when it was
yeah,
first announced, before anything really got seen. People were sort of ripping on it, and then
yeah,
like obviously it got all the love that it ended up getting. Um, but that's how that guy, man, that guy, I would love to hear him pitch anything. I don't really care what it is now. You know what? No, I'm not giving this a 10. I'm giving this a 5. It could come back. If he ever pitches another Gex, it's happening. I don't know what voodoo magic he has, but he's got it. That's wild.
yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I'm giving Gex a 10 because I think, well, I'm pretty sure it's Embracer who owns it because it's an IDOS game, right? And Crystal Dynamics made it. Crystal Dynamics will never have any interest in ever returning to fucking Gex. Sorry, Matt McMuscles, wherever you are out there. He was always a 2-bit, mascot, and now he's 6 feet under.
Fair enough.
I mean, what more fitting in could there be for the unofficial mascot of the 3DO?
Wow. Well, he's doing great in insurance though. Um, God, games that okay, here's one that like I wish if it got announced tomorrow, but Turok
Turok is one. Turok
is
is absolutely fucking coming back.
I want it to. I
Oh, it's
want it.
happening.
The thing is like a lot of these are things that I want to come back, and I just don't want to get my hopes up, and so I'm like leaning into
Turok's a
these.
matter. Turok's a matter of time, man. Because you recently just had Night Dive Studio. I think they remastered all 3 of the original trilogy and re-released them.
Yeah,
And there's been weird little things in like mobile games and whatever, but like I don't think Turok's dead. I honestly don't. I think Turok is a matter of time.
but it's been years since.
Since like a big proper new one, like the Disney interactive one with Ron Perlman, yeah, it's been a while. But like
Yeah, what year was the Disney interactive one? That was like 9.
2000, yeah, it's around there, somewhere between 2007 and 2009. That
Yeah,
sounds about right.
it's been 15 years. It's just
No, I mean the Night Dive remasters are not that old, and they're I think they're pretty successful actually. I think
I'll have
Turok.
to look.
I think I am. I'll say two. I'll say two, but
Because
I think Turok is going to happen again.
here's this thing again. It's a win for me if it does. I just
No,
don't
but the
have
thing is, I think there's interest. I think there is interest out there. Here's the thing: it may not be a big, giant, big budget game. It's not going to be like the Disney interactive game or whatever, right? Like it'll, because there's like a growing market for boomer shooters out there,
yeah.
and I think a sort of 'cause that's what 3D Realms does now. Um, they make games that are literally like fell out of 1998 or something. Boomer shooter style games, like graphically, like yeah, the resolution's nice, but like it's still like it's like these sort of low poly retro shooters, right?
Well, I mean, I think
And
that's the only way you're allowed to work at 3D Realms.
probably
Is like, do you have a deep love of the late 90s?
the deep love of the
Yes.
late 90s in all the appropriate and inappropriate ways, then you're hired.
Yeah.
But I think Turok is bound for a rebound. And I don't think it'll be big, like as far as like budget or scope. I think there'll be like a boomer shooter,
Okay.
like smaller budget style, like maybe even by Night Dive themselves. Maybe they'll make a brand new game, who knows, or
Ooh,
something
that
like.
would be cool. Granted, that Avatar game, like people were calling it Alien Turok.
Oh, it is. Oh,
Like,
it so
so,
is.
I mean, I guess I can't complain that much. I guess technically out
I
there
mean,
right
because
now
you have
is.
you have a 3090, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so if that game's ever like on sale, and it probably is often because it's Ubisoft, if you ever get that game on deep discount, you want to see what your what your 3090 is capable of. You should get that game on the cheap if you can,
Hell yeah.
and you will be amazed. Even I was kind of like there was the part where like Yeah, I mean, there's like the part or right at the beginning of the game where you escape your whatever bunker you've been living in, and you go out and you enter the jungle for the first time, and it's just like, holy crap!
Is
Like,
it
is
sort of like Gray Zone is right now, like Gray Zone Warfare, where if you put it on max settings, it's like intense,
oh yeah,
a little
definitely.
overwhelming?
Um,
Okay,
oh yeah, like it's better looking than Gray Zone on max settings on PC.
Ooh,
It's
okay.
stupid, but it also is a game that a lot more people and budget went into it, like a lot, like a lot more.
That makes sense. I mean, Ubisoft, they make some pretty games. There's pretty games Ubisoft has made.
Yeah, and this is from Anvil, the Anvil engine. I forget Ubisoft. I forget what the name. They're making the Star Wars game. They're like their tech wizard studio. Um,
Mm.
they're the ones who like built and know the engine the best. That I think they built the engine, but if they didn't build it, they know it the best. But yeah, this is like Ubisoft's like main graphics powerhouse studio, um, that did Frontiers of Pandora is what it's called. But if you ever see it on sheet, man, I mean, I would definitely I would jump in.
If they rebooted
Massive, yeah, that's the
Massive,
company, massive entertainment.
if they rebooted Turok right now, like one, I guess they would try to make the story make sense. Which
Yeah, because Turok's kind of all over the place, isn't it? It's funny because the N64 games like really disappeared from dinosaurs really fast, went right into alien shit.
yeah. Yeah,
You
well,
just kind of stayed there.
there was that time where people started when they originally they thought like, you know, it was going to be a time travel because there is some sort of the first Turok you're a guy from the time, right? Isn't there another?
There probably is.
Yeah, there's a I don't know. It's all over the place, but they'll try to make sense of it and I think that's also sort of fun trying to like make sense of older games when story didn't matter in games, trying to make that nonsense make sense.
Yeah,
Sort of.
I gotta correct myself earlier. I said it was the Anvil engine. That's Assassin's Creed. Snowdrop is the engine that runs Avatar.
Okay.
And it runs Avatar on Star Wars. And Massive did make the engine, and yeah, so it's very much and that's kind of the nice thing is like you have people who made a graphics engine and they make the game, so they know the ins and outs of their own engine like very well. So you're getting a very optimized looking release.
Well, that's probably also why the RE engine looks so good.
Right. It's like, why does our engine work? Because I mean, the thing is, like, it's actually not even that, again, graphically intensive of an engine. Like, it doesn't take, you don't need a monster machine to run RE engine games
Right.
because it's mostly lighting tricks. But yeah, I'm going with 2 on a Turok. So
2 on a Turok. I'm I'm still going to stick with the 5, 50 on whether it comes back or not.
I think Turok's a matter of time, man.
Yeah, but if I'm 80 when it happens, you're correct.
You're correct, but
Fucking matter.
screw you.
like, um, oh, it's your turn. Throw one out.
All right. Well, I'm gonna to be real here. I'm gonna give you 2. I'm gonna give you a 2 for here. 3 for. I'm gonna give you 3, and they're all 10. They're all dead. They're all dead
All
forever.
dead as hell. Okay.
All dead forever. I'm gonna give you 4. Well, 4. I'm gonna give you 4. Ape Escape, Legend of Dragoon, Wild Arms, Arc the Lad. I'm a little iffy on Arc the Lad, but like all 4 of those franchises are dead.
Wasn't there a Wild Arms just not that many years ago?
Dead.
Wow.
Now, I think the last one was like maybe on Vita or PSP. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
So these are all Sony owned franchises. And other than Ape Escape, they're all JRPGs. And there was even a time not that long ago where they fly like it was Shuhei Yoshida just basically said we're not making any RPGs in PlayStation. Um, the era of Jim Ryan has come in, and he has basically determined that JRPGs are absolutely dead. I don't need them. I'll just money hat Square, but now even Square doesn't want that. So
There's Wild Arms Mobile.
Wild Arms And Legend of Dragoon, especially Legend of Dragoon. So Legend of Dragoon is like an 11 out of 10.
Well, yeah, Legend of Dragoon's dead. I think it's dead purely because the enthusiasm for another one of its games is too high, and Japan hates that.
Yeah.
The more beloved a franchise is, the less likely they are to bring it back. It's the one true rule.
So certainly seems that way for Bloodborne. So yeah,
Like, it's why every attempt to bring back Perfect Dark has failed.
oh my god. Ah, man, that
Yeah,
that game exists somewhere, I guess.
it's somewhere
Jeez.
out there. They just won't bring it back.
Man, but yes, I think all of these Sony Japanese RPG and Ape Escape, I
Yeah.
think are dead. Like I think Astro Boy is the most you're gonna get out of Sony in Japan at this point. Because I think they're even called Astro Labs now. There is no Sony Japan Studios anymore. There's no like the people who did make Wild Arms, like the creators. He kickstarted a not Wild Arms game not too long ago.
Maybe
So
that's what I'm thinking about is like there's a spiritual
yeah, it's
successor.
called like Arm Fantasia or something like that.
Yes.
Something to that effect, but not Wild Arms getting made because so Sony's not going to make another Wild Arms. Not going to make another Arc Lab. And they're certainly not going to make another Legend of Dragoon. So if you enjoyed any of these things or Ape Escape on the original PlayStation,
Which was only me.
go pound sand because they are dead. These are like they're all 10 out of 10. They're not coming back. I mean, Ape Escape is maybe the most likely to come back because it's not an RPG and maybe they'll do. But the thing is, like Sony recently tried not too long ago with Sackboy to do a 3D platformer, and it didn't really do much sales wise or critic reception or anything. So I
Well, the
mean,
biggest thing is that Ape Escape has personality, and Sony refuses to put out any sort of platformer that has personality anymore.
it's really weird, right?
Or
Because like
if they do tear away, they ignore it.
right, like isn't it kind of weird how Sony has like this and I don't think it's gonna get any better with Herman Holst running the show, but like isn't it weird how there used to be a sort of I don't know, vibe with PlayStation mascots with Ape Escape and Little Big Planet and Tearaway, and just sort of all everything in and around that, like Toomba even,
Yeah, I
and
don't know what it is that drove them to decide that they had to be the like.
the failure of Knack, I don't know.
Well, honestly, what I think it is that they wanted to like get the tears and cheers
Mm,
awards. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
don't get me wrong, I love Last of Us, but like, I don't think that your entire brand, all of your games should be going for that kind of
Right.
triple
Well, I
A.
mean, we need to have Loco Roco and Parappa the Rapper in there and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
well,
But
Forever the Rapper's also dead. Like that shit's dead for good
bro,
too.
that guy tried to do a Kickstarter and it failed
Yes,
horribly. Oh my god.
because there's only 20 people left alive who remember and want to play Parappa the Rapper.
He is
Okay.
one of them.
And look, I have no hate for the game. It was a fun game. When we were hanging out at Game World and stuff, I would play that shit all the time. Like it was on like the small TV in the back corner and shit. Uh, Fun game. Does it need a sequel? No, not really. It didn't. I didn't it get a sequel? Wasn't there two of them?
There's Parappa the Rapper too, and then there's Unjammer Lammy.
Yeah, we're good. We're done. That one's done to death. It's dead. It's not done to death. It's not dead. And technically, there is a spiritual successor to it in a small way. But I want a proper Tenchu game. I think the last one was for like what 360.
Wii.
Was it on Wii as well?
There's a Wii one. I don't know if that was the last one, but there's a 360 one.
Yeah, 360 one's probably the last one that I played. But I think I think now we could do that. Like, I guess I would
You ever
put this
tried
in
to
the
play
same.
the first one? The controls are terrible.
Well, that's why you don't play the first one. You play the second one, which
Hmm.
is far better. The controls are still bad. Like from memory, the hardest part about that game is that the controls are too complicated. But um, you know, I think we're in like we don't have Splinter Cell anymore. That's also on my list here is sort of
Splinter
down
Cell is that weird, like it's coming back, it's not coming back, it's coming, it's not coming back.
because people still fondly remember Sam Fisher, but he's in like pop culture still. It's sort of like how people hoping for a new Metal Gear game. Yeah, it's like I don't know if Metal Gear happens without Kojima, so I don't.
They survive.
Yeah, well, okay, I guess. Does it count? Hmm. Um, but uh, yeah, like a proper stealth action or like, but specifically a Tenchu game would be very fun. I would be down for that, which means absolutely no chance of it happening.
You don't think Tenchu's ever coming back?
I would give it no, you know what? Of everything, because Ghost of Tsushima was such a big hit and Tenchu still sort of referenced and stuff, maybe I'd give it a 6,
Hmm.
but I'm leaning more towards like a 7 or an 8. I don't think there's really a lot of great chances for it
There
to
is a lot of games kind of like it though, with like Rise of the Ronin and what have you.
Yeah, I do think there's like potential because I think it is still something that people remember fondly.
I
Uh,
think there's an audience for it.
well, yeah, I think there's
You
an
know what I mean? Like there's no audience for Arc the Lad.
but there's audience for Wild Arms probably. Yeah,
I think
well, actually, I guess
hey,
that guy found out there's not.
well, no, Wild Arms got funded. Parappa didn't.
Oh, Parappa the Rapper. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
I guess there's no audience for Parappa the Rapper, but there was one for Wild Arms, I guess.
Um, you know, I think if you stealth action in general, I think there is an audience for. I also think that Assassin's Creed has sort of like the charm has worn off. And while I am not annoyed for the same reasons that a lot of people seem to be annoyed about the new Assassin's Creed,
Well, that's
I'm
just
not,
racism.
yeah, I'm just not expecting it to be great. But I do think there's a desire to have a stealth action,
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a can of worms or whatever. I think it's really, I mean, my personal thing. Like, okay, so with the news, that's finally getting to Japan, playing as Yasuke or some ninja chick. That's cool. That's actually really cool.
I don't
I
understand. uh, There's so much Japanese history, and yet it seems like every game or TV show we've gotten in the last 5 years is about Yasuke. The character is cool. I'm not trying to say that historically the guy isn't cool. I'm just saying, like, all right, we've got like there's
Well, here's the thing.
thousands of
If
years
you really think about it, though, it really fits for an
in
Assassin's
Assassin's Creed
Creed
game.
game because, like, he basically he appears in history and then vanishes after like 15 years of serving their almost Arthurian legendary, figurehead of Obu Nobunaga, uh, or Oda Nobunaga. So it's kind of like, oh, this is perfect. We have a guy who was a samurai and he served, like, in one of their biggest, known samurai generals, and then we just don't know what happened to him after that. And it's like, perfect. I would do the same thing if I was in their shoes. The only thing is really has nothing to do with that. To me, it's just kind of like, man, I was like, after Ghost of Tsushima and after Rise of the Ronin, because Rise of the Ronin is okay, we have firearms. Ghost of Tsushima is before firearms. So you kind of like cover sort of ancient Japan, both from the sort of non-firearm aspect with firearm and with Western influence aspect. You've kind of like that whole they're arriving late to the party. And I think honestly at this point, having
Which
someone
is
like,
their way.
yeah, well, I mean, having someone like Ask is actually the best thing they can do, I guess, for it, because almost at this point it's like I don't know what else you do that hasn't been done, because like and then you have like crazy fantasy like Sekiro, right?
Yeah,
Which is like, okay, this has got like giant snakes and monsters and what have you, and God, what was that other Neo is another one what's also like fantasy
yeah, because
feudal
that's in like
era.
1600s, isn't it?
Yeah, 1600, yeah.
Um,
Like, so it's like it's like you covered almost every century, like leading up there. So I get what they're doing. It's just kind of late to the party, but whatever. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
sure it'll.
feel strongly. It's not like I'm like I hate the idea. Like I do like I just I'm saying there's like thousands of years of Japanese history, and it seems like everything lately is focusing in on just specifically that 15-year period. And it's like, it is cool. I'm not going to be mad at it,
You
but
know what though? Think of it this way, Andrew. The Wild West lasted
true.
20 years,
If even,
and
yeah.
everyone from Americans to non-Americans are hyper fixated on the Wild West era, which really maybe lasted about 20 years.
And
Like,
the thing is I also agree with you where I'm like, it is much more interesting to be in the frontiersman era. The late 1700s, early 1800s is way more interesting of a time.
I think if you were doing something that's like, hey, you're going to play like Lewis and Clark, or you're just going to play one of those, just a random fur trapper in the
Yeah,
1700s he's just going to follow, Hudson Bay downriver and see where it goes. And like, I have no idea what you're getting into.
terrifying. Like, a million ways to die, and you really just have no idea what's going to happen today.
And absolutely
Um,
no one's coming for you because there's nothing out there.
so what do you think Tenchu is a
6.
sick? Yeah, okay, so you're
I
with
think
me on
it's
it, right?
mostly dead just because like it's tied up with From Software. I think that's its biggest thing. However, Activision actually had some sort of IP control over it. And since Activision is now owned by Microsoft, and Microsoft would absolutely be down for getting, FromSoft name on a first party title, I think there's maybe, and hey, Tenchu's at least known, right? Um, so
Yeah, I
like
mean, FromSoft now is more popular than it ever was when Tenchu
right.
was
So I
big.
think I think there's precedent. There's a path forward for it to happen, but I think it's difficult.
Yeah, I just connected that it's a FromSoft game and the controls are kind of garbage.
Yeah,
They really just
always have been.
they got a thing and they stick to it. Um, but I don't know what you're going to go with next. Well, you did rapid fire. Is there a couple of them that I'd like to rapid fire?
Yeah,
Mm,
it's
I think SOCOM's dead. Time
yeah.
Splitters obviously is
You
dead
know
as hell.
what's yeah. Time Splitters just got killed again, and the reason they got killed is Embracer said it couldn't compete with Fortnite, which is kind of like, but why would you? Whatever,
Why would it? I don't know. Can't
whatever.
win.
Like, well, you can't win when you're bought by Embracer, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's also seeming to be true about Microsoft. You can't win if you're bought by Microsoft either,
Nope.
unless you're Bethesda. But even then, Bethesda had to kill a bunch of people. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, no, there's no winning.
yeah.
There's truly no winning. And SOCOM is a weird one because like it feels like SOCOM could easily have a new game come out right now and do well.
It feels like SOCOM or God, what's the Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon? Could both of those games feel like they could have something come out right now and do fairly well? Um, like yeah, I think SOCOM is more likely to do well, especially because SOCOM could be Sony's answer to Call of Duty being taken from them in
Yeah,
a way.
sort of.
Um, it wouldn't be an arcade shooter, but like they could establish it as their first party AAA shooter purely for Sony. Because doesn't Sony own SOCOM outright, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I thought so, but um, especially because
The studios that made either one of the games are dead because I
long
mean,
gone, yeah.
yeah, Zipper was the main studio, then Slant Six did the spinoff for the PS3, and they died too after Operation Raccoon City. So it's like everyone who made it's long gone. So,
They
but
could
obviously you would have to resurrect it, but they could do that, like it's
there's a lot more talent in shooters nowadays. Devs that are very
yeah.
talented at shooters today than even 15 years ago.
Hmm.
You know, I would say that now they definitely could. They should have started 4 years ago, to
They
be
should
honest
have,
with you.
yes,
They
yeah,
should have.
yes,
Uh,
hundred
but
percent.
they could bring something out in the next 2-3 years if they could. I don't think they could, but
Speaking of Sony, what would you say about Siphon Filter? The studio's still around, but
I I think me and you and like 5 of our listeners are the only people that remember Siphon Filter with any kind of
Nobody remembers tasing the hell out of.
Yeah, nobody remembers that shit. Nobody remembers the siphon filter run. Uh, yeah, the legs kicked out all fucking yeah. Um, God, I remember one time being in like grade school or maybe just before junior high and like doing the siphon filter run on the playground and like people actually knew what I was doing and that was like a different
Look at
time.
siphon filter run.
Yeah. Nowadays you do the siphon filter run and people just think, you're a bad runner. You're you're
Oh, his legs are broken. That's heartwarming. He's still trying.
how sad. Um Siphon filter single-handedly tried to make running in cargo pants cool.
See, I'm gonna say siphon filter is kind of like an 8. Like, could it come back? I think it's a long shot. Maybe a 9. I'll say more of a 9. I don't think Sony Bend is interested in returning to siphon filter, but the fact that they're still around, I guess maybe makes it not impossible, but also not but
But it's
still,
also not the same guys in Sony Bend as when
yeah.
it's not like that matters.
It's
Um,
that's
I
why it's a 9.
you know what? I'll throw out a weird one that is still alive, but I think is dead. By the way, this sort of came to me just now, where I'm like, it is still technically limping along, but I sort of think the franchise is going to be dead for a little bit. Battlefield. I think Battlefield.
Oh yeah, they're actually making another Battlefield.
Yeah, I think it's limping along, but I actually sort of think it's
Well,
coming to the grave.
I don't know if you heard because, like, the people who made Dead Space remake got pulled into working on it, and EA
I
had
didn't
this
hear.
statement. Oh yeah, yeah. EA had this big statement like, we're gonna make it like, the big, we're gonna make it the best live service game. EA had this big weird statement where
Mhm.
basically, yes, Battlefield's coming back. It's gonna be a live service game.
Yeah,
And they're pulling like multiple different studios to come and make it. They're trying to. They're making it their war zone. They are making a Battlefield war zone. So
so it's
it's
dead. it's
well,
it's
as far
yeah,
as
it'll
one
be
that's
there.
also technically alive, we know it's alive from the leaks. Where I actually thought it might. Honestly, if we didn't have the leaks, I actually would have thought this would have been a lot more dead than I thought it was. But I'm going to say Ratchet and Clank is a 1, because it's a 1 because, well, it's not dead, and from the leak, we know they're going to make another one. However, here's the caveat. Here's why it's a 1 and not a 0. They're not working on it right now. It's on a roadmap for them, and nothing is concrete at this point in time. It's like planning to make a game
Yeah.
that didn't sell nearly as well as your last Spider-Man games did doesn't necessarily bode the best for Insomniac, especially when they've already had to lay off people from Insomniac. So I think the fact that they have it planned makes it a 1, but I think I don't think by any means is it a guarantee that Sony's going to go ahead and say, like, yeah, sure, go ahead, spend the money, make another Ratchet and Clank.
It makes me sort of curious how malleable slates are for games because making a game takes so long. Like a slate of movies, like a studio will come up with a slate of movies and we'll have like a 10-year plan that they pretty much
Yeah.
stick to. They don't pivot very much, really. Pivoting for studios happens like again every decade, which is also generally coincides with like how often they change studio heads.
Mhm.
James Gunn takes over DC and creates a new slate, and
Yeah.
that'll be the slate until he's gone, kind of thing, probably around the 10-year mark. Which means that he'll probably have like a 5 movie to 10 movie slate, depending on how big the studio is, how many projects they have on hand. I wonder what that's like for game studios because game studios, it seems like don't get to make their slate. One,
Right.
they're probably one movie or one game at a time, so they don't even have a slate. They don't go like, "Hey, for the next 15 years, here's what it looks like for us." I bet you they don't do that because now games take 5 years to make on average.
Well,
Anyways.
a
It's like,
publisher, I can say this: publishers do have slates.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like a publisher has a slate, but how often do they change that and kill
Hmm.
things?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's another thing that I find very interesting about like the movie business is opaque and but you can read the trades, you can know people that work in it, and you can have a decent insight into how things operate. You don't have to be a studio head to know exactly how
Yeah.
a studio runs. But like with games, with like game publishing especially, like it's so opaque to where probably on purpose, you don't really know how things run
Yeah.
necessarily. Like
Well, I
it's
think the other thing too is for the longest time, not recently, but for a long time, making a game took like a year or less.
right.
And then it took a year and a half or whatever. And then it was like 2 years, maybe 3 years kind of thing.
And
It's
now
like
they're hitting 5, 7
right
years.
now they're
Yeah.
7. The weird thing is there were both Square and Namco had their financial reports come out, and they had almost identical statements. They're like, and they had this weird wording where they say they want to change their plan, their multi-year plan.
Hmm.
Not like this wasn't about fiscal. This was they literally said we're going to restructure how our company operates, and I think it's a good thing. But they're basically saying this is sort of like a warning, and you know they're doing what they need to do, although it feels like they came to way too late. But both Square and Namco came out and said we're canceling a bunch of projects. Namco said we're canceling 5. Square said we're just canceling, and they didn't say how many. And they're basically restructuring, and they're getting rid of producer-driven fiefdoms. Which, for people who don't know, in Japanese gaming, this would happen a lot. Hell, Rare used to do this too, where this development team inside Rare kind of works and lives on their own and does their own thing, and they don't have
Right.
any interaction much with the rest of the company. So, and this was, you can see this is a big example of Square was you had Luminous Studio. Before they were called Luminous Studio, they were just a part of Square Enix. But they were the only people who knew how to work Crystal Tool / Luminous Engine. And then they became their own branch called Luminous Studio after 15. They made Forspoken, Dead, and then they got rid of they absolved
There's a dead fucking IP.
yeah, there's really dead. And then they all just got absorbed in. And why did that happen? Because everyone in Luminous Studio were the only people who knew how to work on Luminous Engine. And why were and this was how it was run for decades in Japanese game publishers, where the producer of a project, he controlled that area of the company like it was his fiefdom. And they made their games, and they didn't share anything they created or made, any plugins, renderers, pipelines, all just for them, their game, their project, and then they use it on their next game, their next project. They don't share
Huh.
it with the company. And Japan's caught on to like, this is actually not good. Why did they do this? My guess is because probably a sort of slimy, this is how you get ahead in the corporate world, is by making yourself, like you as the producer, look as good as you possibly can, look better than the other producers, which is why this happened a lot. And it still happens. A producer of a particular game, their particular game does super well. That producer then gets promoted out of game development, and they become into like management roles or executive roles. Like every successful game producer becomes becomes an
Yeah.
executive.
Well, from
So
my limited understanding of like Japanese corporate culture in general, like everything's hierarchical.
right.
So you do have like a like it's like a corpo feudal, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like
absolutely. And and
kind of
and
a wild traditional.
they've kind of decided this doesn't work actually, and figured out, at least Namco and Square did. Not only did they figure out multi or singular platform console exclusivity doesn't work, they also figured out, if we made if one's part of our company made something really cool or figured out some really good way to work with Unreal Engine or whatever, they can't keep that to themselves. Everyone needs to know what to do. Everyone needs to be sharing all of their know-how.
Yeah, that's a crazy development. Like it's you hear them say that and you're all like, how is that not how you were doing it already? But I guess when you again think about it as like the hierarchy or the Japan loves proprietary,
Yeah.
everything. And so maybe like down to the team level, they're like proprietary development
Yeah.
secrets or something they very much guard. Actually, that could explain like isn't there a ton of resentment when a producer leaves a company?
Oh yeah.
So it's like Mikami or Kamiya faced a lot of like
Mhm.
really strong resentment when he left Capcom. Maybe that's part of it is like they closely guard secrets, and then so losing a producer means you might lose an entire style of development. because
Staff may
nobody else.
follow them too.
I bet you Steph definitely follows them.
Oh, they did. That's Platinum exists because of that.
Yeah.
You know, for that reason and stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's crazy.
there's definitely like yeah. So it's weird to see Japan sort of like figure this out. I'm like, oh, this is bad actually. Um,
And so now they're pivoting what their entire slates look like.
yeah, and they're basically saying like we're not going to be able to make. We have to like like they're both being adamant like, hey, it's going to take a while to like get this in order and like
I
Square
bet.
basically said we don't have any major games for the next couple of years. That was kind of
Yeah.
like the scary thing they said where there's like we don't have so they're like okay so Kingdom Hearts 4 is not coming out anytime soon and we don't have a new Final Fantasy ready to go or even a Dragon Quest for a while. Sorry.
Yeah, the thing I would say about that is like it Square is a publicly traded company, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like if it was a private company with the downsides that it comes with, the one upside is that like they don't have to produce profit necessarily,
Mhm.
every quarter as long as there's a game plan. But with investors, like they've got to account for why they're not bringing in profit for the next 8 quarters. That's difficult. That puts them in a real pickle.
It does put them in a pickle, but when you think about the last CEO they ousted like a year ago from Square and how he was adamant about funneling all the R&D and extra profits into NFTs long after the NFT market was
What's an
dead and done.
NFT?
Yeah, exactly. He was still adamant that this was the future, and like I can see why he got ousted.
Dude,
Like I would rather have a guy with a plan than a man who is like refusing. You know, I'm refusing to admit that my boat is sinking.
look, I'm not gonna go into a rant because I know that I've had other little rants on here about this, but like 15 years ago, I think is the last time anyone like tech executives specifically, um, anyone could be considered like a visionary or creative in the products they were doing. Like I think for the last 15 years, most everybody's been making churning out product meant to scare competitors or eat market cap and have
Mhm.
no actual like viability as a product. And so that includes your NFTs and I'm sorry, crypto bros, but crypto also probably is it's going to struggle, we'll say. Yeah, the established coins maybe not, but point is like I'll for years and years, and so you have these executives that are now getting into power in other industries that came from tech, and so yeah, you have a guy that held on to NFTs that most everyone that I knew that worked in tech, from consultants to developers of apps and stuff, looked at NFTs, and not all of them. I would say like I know probably like a handful of guys. I'd say 2/3 of the people I know looked at it and were like, "Yeah, that's bullshit. It's got no market. It's got no like.
It's got no
There's
future.
yeah, it's got no future." And like a third of them were all like, "No, no, let's give it a chance. It's an emerging technology."
See what happens.
Yeah,
On the subject of Namco, though, um, I'm gonna end it on this one.
hell yeah.
Xenosaga is dead,
You think it's
and
never
they're
nothing?
never coming back. There's a weird contingent of people that are not letting it go. They take every tiny fun little Easter egg and take it as confirmation that like they are working towards bringing this franchise back. And no,
Well,
it's dead. And they just canceled 5 titles. And they basically said we're going to focus hard on just like our mainstay, focus hard on main projects. They're not in the remaster game anymore, guys. Like it's dead. You need to let it go. The team that made those games moved on to another company, and every time they get permission, special permission to throw an Easter egg in something, does not take they take it as some sort of weird confirmation, like this is the future. No, it's not the future.
that's the side effect of
It's an Easter egg. Media
that's the
literacy is dead. The creator even said as much in the art book.
yeah, but that's the side effect of content creation, like media churn. Because everything they consume is fans of that side. Like every time there's an Easter egg, there's like 20 videos from guys with 1 million followers being like, and this is confirmation of the next game, and here's my new theory. And they do it every day. Every day
Every
there's
day.
a new theory.
Every day.
It happens for games we know that are happening, like The Last of Us. I don't remember the name of those creators, but like every time there was like a slight announcement, like Neil Druckmann farted, and this is how it confirms the last chapter of The Last of Us. You're like,
I mean, so
okay,
obviously they're gonna make they are going to make a
of
Last of Us
course.
3
Yeah.
someday. Like it's like looking for confirmation of the next Mario title. Like, duh.
Like, duh. I'm gonna say my final, I think it's dead now. It's definitely dead. I think an easy one to end on would be to say Castlevania. But I'm gonna end on one that had a little breath of life, a chance, but now I think is truly dead, and that's KOTOR. I think it's done.
Oh man, you don't think that remake's actually happening?
I think it's done. I think I have a feeling that it is.
Who was it? Saber's doing it now, or is and they're like it's not dead, and I'm like, yeah, we got nothing.
I have a feeling. And so granted, yes, technically it is it's still in development.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give it optimistically, I'll give it a 6 just to say I'm gonna give it a 40% chance that it's coming. But I have a feeling it is truly dead. I have a feeling it's dead. Like I I want it to be a thing. Some of my favorite times streaming was when I streamed I think it was KOTOR 2. I have nostalgia for the game, so I want it. I think most every game that I said is dead is a game that I actually want to happen. I'm dashing my own hopes here, but I do feel like it's dead in the womb somewhere.
Oh Jesus! Just this year, I just looked it up. In February of this year, Embracer Group planned to sell off Saber in a $500 million US deal. Saber is anticipated to continue developing KOTOR remake as a privately owned firm. Jesus.
Oh geez.
So yeah, the company that was making it got kicked off the project, and then the company it got sent to, the parent company's trying to sell off Saber, who took over remake duties, and they're just going to try to keep doing it as a privately owned firm.
And here's hoping that they actually do it, but I have a feeling. Although, what a huge success for them if they actually completed it as a privately owned firm.
Oh yeah, they sold them to a group of private investors in a deal worth up to 500 million.
Yeah, okay. Private equity, they're known for holding on to. Okay. They're going to get sold off in like chunks. On that note, we have producers to thank. If you guys have like dead IP and you want to in memoriam and you want to comment, especially on YouTube, the YouTube comments been great lately.
Yeah, rank your IP. Take an IP that's been dead or dormant for a while, and then give us your rank of where you think it stands of coming back or not coming back.
Or be brave. Pick an IP that maybe is only recently done that you think is dead, that you don't think has a chance. That would be interesting. Like I'm saying, Battlefield. Yeah, it's coming. I don't think the next one's gonna hit as big as they want, and then Battlefield will be dead for a while.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. I think if this next Battlefield doesn't really hit, I think that's it for Battlefield.
It better be the best Battlefield in a decade.
I mean, at what point does Battlefield become like a sunk cost fallacy for EA? Because it kind of already is, but
a little bit. But our producers for this episode are Dragon Wolf Makoto, Osnight, Zyberknight, Mutton Chops Johnson, Scrunami, Kroy 35, Hyper Viper 89, Hockey Kong 64, LCL Mayhem, and Ziggy Z. Thank you, dudes. We'll catch you next time.
later, dudes.